Hi, on the Woodpecker today, I'm making musical nutcrackers. Over the years, I have made several different types of Christmas decorations as gifts for Renée. Sometimes, they were not the prettiest. Last year, I've decided to make a musical nutcracker, inspired by this one. To hide the electronics, it has to have a hollow body. To do so, I need to make 8 identical pieces of wood, just like the ones in this animation. So I start by picking up some old dresser's drawers fronts. But since this is reclaimed wood, I need to remove some wood here and there. When I'm done, I tilt the saw blade to 45 degrees so I can make this bird's mouth cut. I have to point out that my dado stack is not to its widest, because this wing on the tabletop is in the way. This doesn't start well. The throat's insert doesn't have a wide enough opening when the blade is tilted, so I need to make a wooden one. I begin by tracing its general shape on a piece of plywood. And since I have a dado stack installed in my saw, I make all the cuts with the bandsaw. When I'm done with the saw, I still need to make this fit better. Now that I have the right shape, I need to drill 4 pilot holes for the adjusting 8 screws and screw them. Then I can put the throat in place and lift the saw blade into it. Now I'm ready for the cuts. First of all, I stick the pattern on a scrap piece and check the cut. I can see it's not 100%. I make some modifications and then I cut all the birds' mouths. When I have 4 pieces with both sides cut, I can switch blades and rip them all to it. Now that I have 8 pieces, I lay them all on masking tape and pour a little bead of glue inside each mouth. Then I try to roll everything together, but it's not easy because the glue makes it too slippery. And the masking tape is now useless. In the end, I use a long elastic band to hold it together. This was not easy, but I managed anyway. I think that all my troubles were because I didn't use enough glue. Now that the glue is dry, I can turn this round. But I don't have anything to hold this end, so I'm going to turn something to hold it in place. After cutting a piece of wood almost round, I use my faceplate to make some mark so I can drill pilot holes and then screw it in place. Now I need to turn a cone-shaped tailstock. The first thing I do is make a tenon small enough so my biggest jaw can grab it. When it's done, I can remove the faceplate, put it back on the lathe, and turn the cone shape on the other side. Now I can put back my glue up on the lathe and hold the open end with my newly turned cone and the tailstock. The first thing I have to do is cut the uneven ends. When I have enough cut, I remove this from the lathe and finish the job with a chisel. Put that back on the lathe and cut the other side. I should have done like I did for the first side, but I didn't. I want to turn the corner around by skipping the chisel step. Here's the result. Don't panic, I'm okay. After removing all the wood, I had nothing to hold the cone in place, and the pictures speak for themselves. Next, I just put it back on the lathe and turn a nice cylinder. On the original nutcracker, the legs are glued directly onto the body. For mine, I need to cut a rabbet to hold a plywood bottom. To do so, I install the steady rest and push the roller blade up to the cylinder. When I think it's okay, I start the motor. Since it's perfect, I can cut the rabbet. Before doing anything else, I need to take care of the head. I'm going to use old drawers front again that I'm going to glue together. But since they're all varnished, I need to remove it. Then I cut them in half and glue them together. I leave this alone and return to the body. I begin by tracing the shape of the nutcracker on parchment paper, using the full-size nutcracker that I've printed and glue it on a piece of masonite. Then I cut the shape. Using this shape, I mark the transitions on the cylinder and turn it. When I'm done, I sand a little and cut it. Okay, this was not so graceful either. I also need to cut another rabbet on the top of the body. And close the top and bottom. To do so, I glue a piece of plywood on my cone. After making sure it's well glued in place, I turn the bottom of the nutcracker. When I'm done, I do the same thing for the top. Now that the glue of the head is dry, I cut one side straighter. But to make it really straight, I use my jack plate. Then I cut it square on the table saw. And to help turning the head, I remove all four corners. But before turning this, I need to cut both ends. Now I can turn the head. First of all, I turn a cylinder. Next, a tenon on top of the head. When it's done, I turn the head's shape. Finally, I cut the head. A head and a future hat. To make the hat, I chuck one side and drill a hole on the side of the head's tenon on the other side. Then I can put both pieces together. But looking at this now, I figure it would have been easier to turn the hat and the head in one piece. But I didn't. Now, with the two pieces together, I turn the hat. The last thing to do with this hat is turn it around, hold it in place with its mortise, remove the tenon on the other side, and sand it. This is a small taste of the final product. But my nutcracker doesn't have any arms or legs. I fixed this right away. The last thing to do for the arm is to use the sander to remove the wood I was unable to remove on the lathe. Now that both arms are done, I can turn the legs. This is way easier. But to hold the legs in place, I need to drill some holes on the bottom cap. Another taste of the final product. I need to cut both arms at 45 degrees to simulate bended arms. When they're cut, I glue them back together and leave them alone. During this time, I can make the base. I begin by roughly cutting a circle. Then, just like for the top and bottom, I glue it with hot glue and turn it round. When it's done, I carve the date under the base. Now it's time to make some shoes. First, I turn a shape which looks like a pair of shoes, sole to sole. Then with a drill bit, the size of the leg, I cut the shoe out of my turning. Next, I sand the tip just before cutting this in two. And here they are, two shoes. Not bad, eh? But I forgot to make a tenon on the top of the leg. So now I need to drill a hole in the side without a tenon. Then I glue a piece of dowel inside the hole. I still need to drill some holes into the base, so the legs have somewhere to be glued on later. This nutcracker must also have a nose. I begin by tracing the width of the piece of wood I'm going to use for it and cut two curves. After making the bottom of those curves straight, I can glue the nose. Now I can turn the drum. Nothing too complicated here. Turn it round and cut it. There you go, a drum. To hold the arms to the body, I'm going to drill a hole through the body. For that, I'm using a super long drill bit because I want both holes to be aligned perfectly. Then I drill the arms at a small angle of 10 degrees. Now I can cut a piece of dowel to the right length. Okay, I should just have marked the dowel and cut it, instead of finishing the cut like that. It's going super well. I also need the hole on the top to hold the head. I mark the center and drill the hole. These are all the pieces required to make one nutcracker. I wasn't expecting to have enough pieces for a second body, but I do. So I'll make a second nutcracker. Okay, everything went as well as the one I just did, except when I tried to cut the second rabbit. Nothing that a bit of glue can't fix. So I spread a bit of glue and hold it together with hose clamps. After this mishap, the rest went super smooth, and I'm now ready to paint them. I begin with the red, then the black, tan for the skin. I add a couple more colors and let the paint dry overnight. The next morning, I mask the pieces that need several colors and spray the other one. I also spray red cheeks. The red is dry, so I can brush the rest of the color. One thing I can say is that painting it took way more time than I was anticipated. But it's the eyes that took the longest. So when the black is done, I mask the ends and spray them. When the paint is dry, I can start to glue this together. I begin by the legs, then the shoes, and let this aside to dry. Then I can paint some white, blue, and black again. And finally, the final touches. Then I spray 2 coats of shiny clear coat. When it's dry, I glue the arms in place. Drill some holes for the drums. And glue them in place. Then the top goes in place. Now I can drill the screw zones to access the inside of the nutcracker. I need an access because it's where I'll hide the electronics for the music. I'll spare you the soldering for the boards, but this is what they look like when I'm done. Now I can put everything inside, screw them together, and listen to the nice Christmas music. No, you're not going deaf. There's no music. This is too airtight, and the sound can't be heard from the outside. I drill a hole so the speaker can be outside. And now I can reassemble them. Success! Now I can put the first head on, and with the switch under its head, when I pull it, the music starts. I'm almost done. They're only missing some hair. I spread a bit of glue on fake fur and glue it to the head. To hold their wigs in place while the glue dries, I use rubber bands. I also glue a small pinch. And here they are. I like them, but how will Renée and my mother react when they'll see them? Okay, Renée is searching everywhere where the music is coming from.
Oui. Oh,
Same for my mother, but it took her a bit more time to pull on the head. Those are the 2 musical nutcrackers I made. One thing I can say is that the hollow center added a good challenge to the build. But the important thing is that I had fun making them. I guess more than you. But nonetheless, I'll be back soon for another episode of the Woodpecker.